director for the community team with PLC. And if you didn't know, we have recently locked arms with Search for Common Ground, and we're really excited that now our organizations are merging together. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Search for Common Ground. Search for Common Ground was founded in 1982 and is the world's largest dedicated peacebuilding organization, has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. And Search seeks to prevent the end of violence by helping divided people trust each other, collaborate on shared challenges, and make breakthroughs for peace through the organization's core methodology, the Common Ground approach. So I'm really excited about this, and our team specifically will be joining Search for Common Ground's Common Ground USA program. And so this is our first collaborative workshop, and we're really excited about it. And we also have Maxine from Common Ground USA, who is going to be one of our panelists today. So we're really excited for this event, and we felt like this is an important conversation for us to have when we're talking about peace building and different faiths coming together. We have so many different faith traditions and things going on right now this month. We have Ramadan, there's been Easter, Passover, and we just thought, you know what better time to come together and start talking about how we can learn and grow from each other. So we want this to be an open space and for everyone to feel welcome, whether you feel like you have a faith tradition you hold dear to you or not. This is a space for us all to connect and talk, and everyone is welcome. All thoughts and different beliefs and opinions are welcome as well. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing this space with us. And I'm going to pass it off to Afnan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Afnan Osman. I am the project manager with the community team at Preemptive Love, and I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. So if there are any Hoosiers here, let me know. Before we start today, I want to really thank you for showing up. I know it's Friday, end of the week. It's noon, so thank you very much for showing up and being in the space with us. And I wanted to share something that we usually share for every gathering we have, every workshop, every time we get together with our community of peace builders. We share this invitation to kind of like set the grounds for our conversation today. And before I start, I want to encourage everyone to hold the posture of listening, receiving, and getting our hearts and minds prepared, whether that means turning off your camera or getting into a quiet space, or which I really, really encourage closing your eyes as you listen to this invitation. I'm going to start reading this invitation for us. We are here today to celebrate that we belong to each other. We come here with our whole selves. We are brave, we are courageous, and we relentlessly humanize everyone. And I want us to sit with that. We relentlessly humanize everyone. We all carry wounds, stories, fears, and joys, different backgrounds and cultures, gathering for the purpose of listening, understanding, and nurturing relationships. This is the way our world is remade. When everyone has a voice, everyone has a place to be heard, known, valued, and loved. And I want to say, may our friendships grow deeper and push us all to love anyway, even when we have yet to understand each other. In this space, we seek to begin to heal all that's tearing us apart by pursuing peace through relationship and action. This is very important. The action part, right? And you're taking a part of this, the action part of it today. So thank you for joining us and for being here. With that said, now that we have heard the definition of what it means to love anyway, and I can share this invitation with you via email, or if you want to reach out, I can share it to you. You can screenshot it, you can have it. This invitation is not just for today. We want to invite you to receive and hold this posture, not only during our time here and to, like, whenever you're done with this, you're like, okay, cool, I'm done, but to navigate, to use it to navigate your lives with those who are different from you. You may work with people who you don't agree with, or their beliefs or the way they vote. You may have neighbors that have, some flags that you don't agree with fly in, or something that triggers you as you go about your day, go back to this invitation. Now I'm going to go ahead and share some ground rules. So we use these rules to kind of like, you might be aware of it, right? And you might be secondhand to you. But it's always good to know that you are in a safe space and you will be listened to and you'll be heard. So the first one is listen silently to understand, not to offer advice or to try to fix each other's struggles, right? We are not here to convert each other to our ideologies or political views or whatever it is. We're here to listen and learn and celebrate our unique identities, right? So take space and make space. We're not saying, turn off your light and dwindle away and not share your opinions. We're saying to take the space and make the space, but be mindful as you share. Prioritize listening over being heard, right? We are all at different points in our journey. We're going to talk about that later today. We're in our own different journeys, right? Some of us are now just starting to understand what it means to, live and do life with different people who are different than us, right? So what we're not going to do is tone policing or shaming people for using the wrong language. We're going to show some grace and, take the heart and spirit of what we're saying, what other people are saying. You're welcome again to speak your truth is encouraged, but so is everyone, right? So keep that in mind. You won't always agree, but you might always be like offended by other people. Like that's your right? But this is your chance to love anyway. Practice active listening and build relationships and learn from each other. You can disagree with this, my personal favorite. You can disagree with someone's ideas, beliefs, and opinions, but you might not disagree with experience. You can't have an opinion on somebody's experience, right? And everything that we share today will be confidential. We are recording this meeting today. So if you have a story that you feel uncomfortable sharing, you can reach out to one of us and we'll have that conversation with you. If you don't want to share it in the chat, you can utilize the chat box to kind of reflect on the questions that we'll be sharing with our speakers today. And you can have your notebook and, right away and just reflect on everything that will be discussed today. So these are our ground rules, and we hope that we all respect it and go by it, right? Abide by it. So now I'm going to share, we wanted to share a quick video that illustrates how connected we are. I know you guys just told us where you're from, and you're all over the world and all over the United States too. So I wanted to just show us a quick, cool little video that I love to show us how connected we are. I want us to kind of like sit with that video a little bit. I think just think about this video next time you find yourself othering someone or falling into the us versus them mentality. And as you read the news, scroll down your social media, and the media does a great job dividing us, right? Think about it and think about how your actions, your words, and ideas can have an impact on someone that's thousands of miles away from you. Something that you do today, a comment that you might make, or an idea that's harmful that you can share can affect someone that's thousands of miles away from you, who looks different than you, or worship differently, or votes differently, right? So think about this video next time you see something and you're like, they always doing that, or like, I don't care about this issue. So I feel like inaction and not having a reaction sometimes also can be harmful, right? So what is our purpose? We share our purpose also every time we get together to kind of like center ourselves and, understand why we're here today, right? So we're here to increase our capacity to care for those who are different than us, and to connect deeper and to love anyway. Those are the three things that we're doing today here, right? We're increasing our capacity to care for those who are different from us and that we might not even understand, right? And we're here for the intention to connect deeper and to love anyway. So with that said, we have three amazing interfaith speakers today, our colleagues and friends who were kind enough to share their perspective with us today. Some of them, they're my colleagues, some of them new, like Maxine, some of them old, and I'm very grateful to share this space with them and learn from them firsthand today. And I'll start with Nigel, if you could introduce yourself, Nigel.
Everyone, thank you all for taking the time on a Friday to come and learn and to invest in yourself and say yes to the people around you, opening your world and perspective to hearing the hearts of people who are different for the sake of loving more intentionally with more depth. My name is Nigel. I'm responsible for our program called Generation Peace. It's essentially a place for the next generation of peacemakers to find partnership. We're hosting events and having educational conversations and forum about everything from anti-racism to LGBTQ plus allyship to public policies, socioeconomic development, ways that we can really identify real tangible equity for millennials and Generation Z. I take it I'm supposed to talk maybe a little bit about my faith too, Ethnan. I'm a follower of Jesus. I don't really use the term Christian anymore. That's a specific thing for me because I just feel like it's a very broad term that is a banner for people to kind of pick and choose what way they want to practice, which is specific to them. But I just like to tell people that I love the teachings of Jesus and I follow that way. So I have been with the organization for 2.5 years next month. And outside the organization, I actually traveled to do a lot of teaching in the sociological spaces for psychology, and also interfaith and ministry too. So grateful to be here. Really, really thankful to be holding hands with some wonderful people across the entire spectrum of faith today. So thankful to be here.
Thank you, Nigel. I like to say that Nigel is our in-house influencer. He's definitely more than that, but I definitely see him as our in-house social media influencer, creator, and he's just an amazing person to work with, a great peace builder. And next, I will ask Maxine, our friend from Common Ground USA, to introduce herself.
Thanks. And thank you so much, Preemptive Love, for inviting me to this. If I'm correct, this is Preemptive Love and Search for Common Ground's first public event together. And I am so deeply honored and excited to be here with this incredible group of people who I've just gotten to meet and already deeply, deeply admire. So I'm Maxine Rich. I work for Search for Common Ground, specifically our Common Ground USA team. I've been with Search for Common Ground, or Search, for about 6 years. And we are, as Faith mentioned in the beginning, the world's largest dedicated peace building organization with 40 years of experience. I started with Search in our Morocco office, where I worked for about 1.5 years. Then I had a global role back home where I'm from in DC. And now I've since joined our Common Ground USA team when it launched in October 2021. And my role on Common Ground USA as a program manager is really focused on how do we as American communities root in unity and belonging, particularly as a way to push back against some of the forces that are trying to drive us apart. There's a lot of voices out there. There's a lot of people with a lot of different incentives, and how do we continue to recognize the humanity in each other, as a means of rejecting that. So one way I've been doing that is working with faith communities, particularly evangelical Christian communities in Texas, which has been such an incredible learning experience for me as a nice Jewish girl from the DMV, from the DC area, from Maryland. And I've been working with those groups to see how they can root in their own culture of peacemaking. And it's been a real honor to be able to really show up in my Jewish identity as part of that project. So I think that covers it. So I will pass it back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I can't wait to learn more from you, Maxine. It seems that you've been doing amazing work, and we're just so excited to collaborate and join forces with you. Thank you. And next we have Sadia.
Hey everyone, my name is Sadia Qureshi, and I know there's a lot of familiar faces out there. So whoever knows me, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself. But for all the unfamiliar faces, my name is Sadia Qureshi. I am a gatherings coordinator here at Preemptive Love's community team. And I've been with Preemptive Love about 4.5 years. And I began my peacemaking journey very young, but I feel like officially it began right before I joined Preemptive Love. And in my role here at Preemptive Love, I just try to encourage people to do the work, to start their own gatherings, to start their own peacemaking groups in their own local neighborhood. And we just encourage people. We work alongside people. We learn from people. We don't have all the answers. We never will claim that we do. And it's just a beautiful experience. And I'm just so lucky to be here in this workshop, because I think it's so important to really reflect upon how we show up in our faith, in our peacemaking circles. So I'm glad to be here. Afnan, thank you for hosting. This is going to be amazing. And let's get started.
Thank you, Sadia. And I'd like to share that Sadia is the reason we have the community team here at PLC, an amazing peace builder. And what she does is connect with people. So she'll share her information and she'll answer each email, and she'll have that conversation with you. So thank you, Sadia. All right, without further ado, we're going to start with some questions. And before we start the question, we need to know where you are. Like, I know we shared where we're all from, but what faith do you identify with? And we're going to launch a poll. We're using this. You don't have to answer, obviously. We're using this just to see. We wanted to do this just to see how many belief systems and religions are represented today on this call. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, feel free to just hang out with us for a second. And then also, we apologize if your faith is not represented in the drop down. You can share it on the chat box, if you feel like doing so. So go ahead, Sadia. Okay. It's launched. Great. I don't see it on my end because I'm the host. I'll give it a few seconds or minutes. Oh, I love all these answers.
You're behind us, sorry. $5, my gosh.
Sorry about
crazy.
Great diversity, I see. This is beautiful. A lot of spiritual, I see. Great. All right. This is awesome. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Now I will get to what you all came here to hear the questions that we have for our speakers, please feel free to answer and reflect on these questions in the chat box. Share your answers. If you don't feel like it, use your notebook and just reflect on these questions and answer them to the best of your ability. I'm going to start the first question with Nigel. Question is, how do you in your personal life connect peace building and your faith? And what inspires your peace building journey?
All right, can you ask the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yes, and we're going to share in the chat box too for everyone.
Wonderful.
How do you in your personal life connect peace building and your faith, and what inspires your peace building journey?
Oh, so I think background is really important before sharing philosophy or approach. I grew up in a very conservative Southern West Virginia, 99.98%, white population as a little cocoa pebble, you know what I'm saying? In the bowl of milk, if you know what I mean. So I think that a lot of my philosophy started growing up seeing people being demonized for being different. And different could be sexual expression, orientation, spiritual practice, tax bracket. And so all across the spectrum of humanity, I saw people simply being demonized for being different. And even me, I grew up in a church culture where, so let's just say interracial dating, for example. It was all good until I wanted to date somebody's daughter who wasn't the same complexion as me. So I'm like, how do I justify and make sense of the ideology that God loves everyone except for this kind of situation that has to do with two people who, and I'm a biracial child. My mother is white, my father's Nigerian. So like, it's just a really interesting perspective that I developed very early. And I kind of just was inclined to be like, this is wrong. And so the older that I got, the more I understood about the goodness of God and having proximity and relationship to God. It really was channeled in a way of like, I can help reconcile brokenness and help people realize that they're loved in their humanity despite our differences. If I incline myself to actually learn and explore what I believe instead of just riding the coattails of, grandma who came before me or what the pastor said at the church, I have to do my own due diligence to search and really discover what is it that's the core tenet of my belief and how can I leverage my love to help someone see that their image is beautiful because they were created in the image of God. And so I think for me, my peace building journey has really been amplified by looking around and seeing people who believe what I believe, demonizing other people for living a different type of lifestyle or not having the same type of faith or just expressing themselves differently. And I don't want to jump too far off the deep end because I know we spend short amount of time on our questions. But one of the things that I learned just several years ago, a friend of mine said this in conversation, was that people grow the way that you treat them. And I think I'll end my time right there on that question and just let y'all sit with.
Thank you so much. People grow the way you treat them. That's beautiful. I'm gonna write that down somewhere. And also I like the fact that you said that you had to do the work. You knew it wasn't natural, right? So that's why it's very important for us to reflect. Even if everyone around us is doing it, it does not mean that it's the right way, right? So reflecting and being critical of your pastors, your imams, your whoever that's like telling you to drift away from your natural instincts of just loving and being and coexisting. This is very beautiful. Thank you, Nigel. Maxine, same question. How do you in your personal life connect peace building and your faith, and what inspires your peace building journey?
Oh, is this my favorite question of all time? Perhaps. There's so much. The first piece is I am the very proud, well, I'll just say Nigel made that beautiful link between religion and culture right from the outset of his answer. And for me, what's really neat about being Jewish is it's both a religion and a people. And people have different concepts of how they think about that. But for me, I am a deeply proud descendant of refugees. My namesake, Max Novak, Menachem Novak, hi, mom and dad. He came from Russia with his family, including my grandfather, fleeing violence in Europe. And that history of oppression and violence is very profound. And I think it's profound across many parts of the Jewish community. And how I see, a lot of echoes of that in the way that many people are oppressed and marginalized throughout the world. I feel it most profoundly in my own backyard in the United States, but I see it everywhere. And the kind of Judaism that I was raised in really centers itself on a few Jewish principles. One is I was raised within the Reform denomination, and the kind of tagline of the Reform denomination is from the Torah, from the 5 books of Moses. It says, justice, justice, you shall pursue. And that is a foundational principle of the denomination I was raised in. And you could feel that throughout the many, many service days and the many conversations that we would have about being part of a broader society, including my personal favorite concept, which is a Jewish concept called tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. The idea being the world is in broken pieces, and we all have a duty, and Jewish people consider themselves to have a special responsibility to bring the world back together. And that is the guiding light in my life as a peace builder. And I want to particularly call out, we just finished the holiday of Passover. And in many Jewish households, Passover is a holiday of liberation. Memory is a foundational concept in Judaism. And so we retell the same story every year. And as part of that, one of the primary kind of pieces that we talk about is you were once slaves in the land of Egypt. And so feeling that kind of as if you have been personally liberated from the land of Egypt, and how do you personally expand liberation? We leave the door open during the meal, and these days no one's actually going to walk in, but the principle is there that you leave the door open during the meal for others. And so it's so ingrained in how I think about peace building, and yeah, really grateful for the question.
That's beautiful. What stood out for me is the responsibility part. And like I kind of touched on it earlier, what you do in your personal life, what you do here in your small town, in your big town, cities, impacts people that you've never seen or heard of, right? The way what you preach, what you like put out there, we're all connected, right? And I also love that you said repairing the world, and that's what we literally say in the invitation, to heal all that's tearing us apart. So that's just beautiful. Thank you, Maxine. Sadia.
Oh, that was so good. I don't know how I can follow up 2 amazing answers, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say. So I really feel that always I've felt that my faith is directly in line with peace building. And I seek to have interfaith relationships, not despite of my religion, but because of my religion. And I personally grew up in an environment where I was a visible religious minority. So there was no hiding that I was the other, right? And what that meant was that for me to thrive and to connect, I had to make a conscious effort to connect and to show our common humanity and to show our common shared beliefs. And I also come back to the Quranic verse that I kind of stick to, and it says that God says that we have created you for male and female and made you into nation and tribes that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable of you with God is the one who has God consciousness. Verily, God is all knowing, all aware. So when I reflect on that verse, I understand that to know people is to know God, and that God has directly commanded me to honor and explore the diversity in the world. In addition to that, Muslims come from the lineage of Abrahamic faiths. We revere Prophet Jesus, Moses, David, Noah, even Mary, mother of Jesus, is in the Quran. So to say that there is commonality between major world religions is an absolute understatement. So what inspires me personally, I think necessity has inspired me just because of where I am and how I've had to navigate the world. And I think history inspires me. And I think despite about how much we read about war and violence due to religion, we always read about the Crusades, we always read about the other like holy wars. There are a lot of examples of amazing pluralistic societies that have
We lost you, Sadia.
coexisted, that have thrived. Oh, sorry. Am I back? Yeah, so that's what I think about, is like what can we learn from history? So yeah, so that's my answer.
Yeah, looking back and learning from history is very important. And I always say the same way that religion divided us in some ways, and the same way that some people weaponized religion to divide us, we can unite. It could unite us, right? So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I have the second question. Be prepared to write it down and reflect on it yourself. And this question, I will start with Maxine. What are some of the challenges you faced connecting both your faith and your work as a peace builder? I know it's probably a lot, but what are some of the challenges you faced with connecting these two?
Thank you. So there's a few things that I thought of as I was thinking about this question. One is something that I'm sure we all face, particularly folks from minority groups, is assumptions. Assumptions about what I believe, assumptions about where I come from, assumptions about how much money I have. A lot of stereotypes are placed onto everyone, and I think particularly minority groups. And that's definitely been a challenge for me, particularly when working in places that do not have Jewish populations, which is most of the world. So that's one. The other is something that was really striking for me when I started working in Texas with Christian pastors. And as an American, I'd been doing international peace building, and I was so excited to start working on my own context. And then I was smacked with the fact that actually America is over 300 million people, and the level of curiosity that I had to bring and humility that I had to bring internationally was just as relevant within my own context. So one challenge that I faced is continuously realizing how different we are, and how, we're all Americans, we all speak the same language, well, not always, but the people I'm working with, and the worldview and the mindset and kind of the little snippets of lingo that sometimes, frankly, because I'm American, I'm more embarrassed to ask than I would be in another context. So that's been a big challenge for me. And I will stop there.
Thank you. It's always harder to peace build in your own backyard, right? It's as challenging, even more challenging, because these people will look at you, the other will look at you and tell you, why are you telling me this? Like, we're both, like, we're the same, we speak the same language, we go to the same schools, we work together, like, what are you preaching? So it's very hard to peace build in your own backyard. All right, Sadia, some of the challenges you face connecting your work in peace building and your faith.
Okay, so when I was thinking about this, I'm like, well, the challenges I face, I feel like probably lots of peacemakers, peace builders face when they try to engage with the other side. And I think that's it. Like, often people assume that I'm selling out or I'm trying to water down what I believe in order to engage. But I've come to realize that that's probably a them problem. It's probably rooted in fear. And it's not necessarily a problem per se. They are just in a different point in their journey than myself, right? Afnan always uses this metaphor of like we're on a ladder, right? So we're on a ladder and we're trying to climb the rungs, and the rung that you're on might not be the rung that somebody else might be on, right? And the rungs might be really close together, and the rungs might be really far apart. So like we can't compare my journey to somebody else's journey. And like we slip on the rungs. We can go down, we can go up overnight, over a split second, right? So when I go into these conversations, I really try to listen. I even try to listen to the naysayers because I feel like it keeps me grounded. It keeps me honest. As far as the challenges that I face when I talk to people from a different faith, especially when I've asked to be at interfaith events and peace events, often it goes south very fast, and it becomes an ambush. It becomes like a bait and switch. I try to come with my best foot forward, and I assume the other person is there with their best foot forward too. But often they come with a very different intention. I have so many stories of people who have tried to convert me. So if you ever want to hear them, I can tell them too. But at this point, if I'm there, there's not much of a conversation. So I just listen and I try to understand their motives. And then, and I try to understand that their motives might never be in line with my motives, and that's fine. And to be honest, I try my best. I try my best to love anyway. And sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I get it wrong. So, so a phrase that I just heard from our friends at Living Room Conversations, they said that the goal of a productive conversation is not to compromise the role of a productive conversation. The goal of a productive conversation is to actually build trust. So I think that's my motive, my intention, and that's why I try to stay in the game. I can't wait to hear what Nigel has to say now.
We're all waiting too. Thank you. And that pressure, honestly, when you said that, a few scenarios came to my mind about your own community, you worrying about selling out, or like Nigel was sharing earlier, he had to think for himself, right? And he might have like someone, an elderly that he really admires, that he want to follow, right? And that his values are aligned with, but some things are just like, no, I'm going to think for myself, and sometimes it's hard to not have your own community support you when you're supporting the other, what they perceive as the other. So it's really hard, and there's a lot of pressure. But like you said, like we always say, loving anyway is not something that you go to a workshop, you got it done, you know how to do it. No, it's a journey, and we can go from up here to one wrong turn and you're not loving it anyway anymore. So it's a journey, and like I think it gets easier with practice, like everything else. So it's very important. All right, Nigel.
This is so good. So my work with preemptive love is one thing. So it's, yes, that's that. And then additionally, outside of the work that I do with preemptive love, I teach a lot. I'm not saying this to brag at all, but I had 80 engagements last year, which is bananas. That's a lot of engagements. That's higher education, colleges, it's interfaith spaces just like this one, it's corporate, creative, it's also the church ministry, right? And one of the things that I've developed in my philosophy as a teacher is that I have ideas, I do not have answers. Because faith is faith, and I think that we forget that sometimes. It's what I believe, right? Be that there is historical context or proof or evidence, XYZ, whatever, this is what I believe. And so I've learned that my obligation as a teacher or as a peace builder or as a human being is to engage through this faith that I have in a loving way. And in my work, that I'm extending ideas and not trying to throw answers at people. And so I think that obviously, if you know about the world evangelism, that post World War II, it was like a lot of knocking on doors, trying to get people to convert, trying to get people saved, that kind of Jesus revolution type deal. And I think that one of the many challenges that I've faced is that in the undoing of that and meeting people where they are, it could be really hard to walk away from a conversation that has been towards peace building and like feel like there was nothing good that happened. It was either explosive or there were conflicting ideas, or, and this was years ago, right? But like present day me is like, I will come into a space, open my heart, open my ears, and just try to listen and learn and empathize, because yes, again, we are all on a different part of the ladder. But I had to, I think a big part of my peacemaking journey was just like taking off the assumption that, and again, this all came from programming. It was what I was taught, right? It's the way that the kind of the program was fixed, but that you got all the answers and you got to invite other people into the definitive answers versus like showing up, loving well, inviting people in, presenting ideas and letting them present ideas to you too, and learning how to live in that liminal space of faith with another person who doesn't believe the same thing that you do, who could be completely opposed. I think maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I have ideas, but not answers. I love that. And also the way that we usually think about peace building and like meeting and like just extending ourselves and going out there. We think about it in a way that's, it's going to be all la 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 and peaceful and everybody's going to come together. And we like to, think about it in that way. But sometimes it's, one meeting might not work. Maybe you will go through a whole week of like people telling you no, or people trying to convert you. I used to teach in Iraq. I taught there with Preemptive Love as an intern in refugee camps. And we had some interns with us that went to a lot of like mission programming, obviously, like, mission trips, and they just didn't know how to turn that off and like get to the volunteer work. And it was very interesting to see that even though they had like great hearts and they wanted to help and they wanted to volunteer, they couldn't turn off that I want to eradicate you as a Muslim so you can become a Christian, because that's what it is. You're going to basically metaphorically kill off the Muslim in them so you can have a Christian in their space, and they did not mean that in harmful way. They're just programmed in that way, and they were so sweet about it. They wanted to like talk to me for hours and tell me, we see the light and we want you to see the light with us, and I'm like, this is so sweet, like, I love that you want me to go to paradise with you, but we have to go back to our values, to the drawing board, and just think of that person the way they are. They are worthy, they are loved, they are welcomed the way they are. They don't have to be like me for them to be appreciated in this world, right? Thank you so much, Nigel. So we have our third question. And before I share this question, actually, I want us to go back to the Loving Away invitation, just ground ourselves. It might be challenging for a lot of us to think about it. It might be triggering for some of us. And if you don't want to share in the chat box, you could definitely sit with this one, share it with your friends and family, and just think through it. And I'll start with Sadia this time. So the question is, in what ways did your faith contribute to violence? So in what ways did your faith contribute to violence? In what ways have you weaponized your faith, your own faith, or were you taught to do so? You were programmed to do so. So as a peacemaker, how do you reconcile your faith in the way it has been used for violence? So I'm going to repeat that. In what ways have your faith contributed to violence? That's the first part. The second part is, in what ways have you weaponized your faith, maybe unknowingly, right? And as a peacemaker, how do you reconcile when your faith is being used for violence? Sadia.
Ooh, thank you. I can't believe I have to answer this question first now. First, I was complaining that I was last. Now I'm complaining that I'm first. I can't be helped. Anyway, oh gosh. I honestly believe that people who use violence in a way to express their faith have misinterpreted their faith. And I don't care which faith it is, right? I really honestly believe that. I've always said that since 9/11, honestly, and perhaps even before, but 9/11 was like the peak. My faith had truly been hijacked, forget the airplanes or whatever, right? Jihad became a buzzword for the media, especially when they talked about violence and terrorism. Jihad actually is a beautiful, beautiful word, which means struggle. So I'm in jihad every day when I try to navigate being a Muslim, trying to navigate, raising my kids in a predominantly non-Muslim land. So I'm trying to, I really try to reconcile it. Anything else that anybody who uses violence in the name of Islam, I believe it's a perversion of my faith. Straighten, that's what it is. People who claim to be Muslim and commit acts of violence are going against the most basic tenets of Islam. And often the motive is political, it's not religious. And honestly, when I think about how often Islam is equated to violence, Islamophobia has a big part in this. The whole like us versus them rhetoric, the whole like if you're not with us, you're against us. The culture that we in America have created, especially since the wars that we have waged as Americans in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, and many proxy wars in other Muslim countries. I think that has a big part in the way that Islam is perceived throughout the world, right? And it's just very infuriating because I know my religion is rooted in peace. I know my religion is rooted in justice, and anything else is just not, it's just not my religion,
I love that. Like I said earlier, our natural way of being and our instincts is to coexist and not to see like the layers to it, right? Or see them and appreciate them. In fact, so when we say that violence and just hate is taught, look at children. They don't care who you worship, how you do it, what color you are, because we are made to just coexist. Look at nature. So that's beautiful. No, I don't personally, I don't believe that any belief or religion is rooted in violence and killing off others and being stereotypical and mean and hateful. It's just not spiritual. It's just, it doesn't logically make sense to me. So thank you for sharing, Sadia. And then I'll go to Nigel. Let me know if you want me to repeat the question. It was kind of long.
No, I'm just like sitting here contemplating how do I even get this out. I mean, you look at Western Christianity, it's rooted in the abuse of power. You look back to, the beginnings of America, you look back to, times of enslaved people, and the fact that there was a slave Bible where, chapters and, articles were intentionally taken out so that the people who were enslaved would go on to believe that they were called by God to be enslaved people to work for their quote unquote, slave masters, XYZ. And then you fast forward to present day, you look across the spectrum of the way that, different political sects treat LGBTQ plus related folks and how we, treat women's bodies and, how we're, making law and things of that nature. It's essentially abuse of power that comes back to playing God, really, if you think about it at the end of the day. And there are verses in scripture that allude to what it looks like, what the implications of trying to play God are. And so when I think about the challenges that I face, you show up in particular circles and you present the fact that you're a Christian, you might get that side eye. And I'm not a victim by any means. I just know that there are implications culturally and societally for being attached to a sect of people and particular faith practice that has abused its power previously. pastors who, manipulate funds and finances at churches to finance, their, luxury lifestyles, or, hate groups that show up outside of, abortion clinics, or, pride parades, things of that nature. And so it's hard to wrestle with that. But again, it really comes back to the idea of deconstruction, really. And I say that when I go back and I realize that, like, the God that I serve and worship is not like the way that he's being falsely represented by people. And he actually handed power over instead of abusing it. And so then that's my belief. And so, I think that that's one of the challenges, is to know that as humans, people who believe the same thing that I believe, being a representation of God, is going to be presented differently by different people based on denomination, based on program, based on lack of information, based on ignorance, based on arrogance, based on position of power. And so I think for me, one of the ways to reconcile that is trying to show up and be a different type of representation, not trying to prove anything to anybody, because again, I just have ideas in the way that I practice my life. I don't have answers that I'm trying to project on other people, but I'm like, man, if I really do believe in this powerful love that exists in me, being a creation in the image of God, then I have an obligation to show up and be properly presented in that way so that other people can experience that same kind of love that I believe in. And I think that's really the only way to reconcile, is undoing the damages that have been done in the way that we love. So.
Right. And taking that responsibility, it might be heavy, right? Because like you're trying to undo centuries of ideas. They're deeply rooted in people and they believe in it, and like their fathers believed in it, and their whole family did. So they're not everybody's going to be accepting of something new, right, and far from what they believed in all their lives, right? But our responsibility, like Maxine said earlier, is for us to show up and keep showing up and representing what God is love means, what does like believing and being spiritual, and just being a natural human being with their extent, like your, I don't even know how to explain it. Your way of being when you're born is to love. You love your parents, you love everybody around you, love your friends. So it's like, to change that whole thing, it takes time. And it takes people like all of us, right, to peace builders, to come in every day and do the work, and show grace too, right, to yourself. So if you see that things are not changing, to not give up, and to encourage others to come with you, and do the work and share everything you learn about peace building and how to do it. Thank you, Nigel. Maxine.
Whew. On the one hand, I'm thinking, how do I follow that? On the other hand, I'm feeling very buoyed by what my friend said. If I can call you guys friends, I know we've met recently. So I am a panelist. Anyway, when I got this question from the Preemptive Love team, I thought about it a lot. I told a lot of people about it. Look what they're asking me to talk about. Not that it's not it's an excellent question. That's why it's such a, like, so the first thing I thought when thinking about how to answer this question is, I don't believe that you can talk about Jewish identity without talking about trauma. A lot of people know about the Holocaust. Monday night is the Jewish Holocaust Memorial Day, Yom HaShoah. That is not the only genocide by a long shot that the Jewish people have faced. And it's a common like trope, kind of joke with it. We do a lot of dark humor in Jewish circles, that every Jewish holiday, not every, but most of them, the tagline is, they tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat. Linda, I see that you got that one. So it's very hard to think about the ways that my people have also harmed others. It's to me, it's antithetical to our lived experience. And it's deeply, deeply painful to think about. And I think from an American perspective, one way that this shows up for me is I am white. And a lot of Jews in America are white, or some would consider it white passing. And I believe being the race that I am comes with a lot of privilege in the way that I move through the world. People cannot tell that I am Jewish. And I benefit quite a bit from that in ways that are visible to me and invisible to me. And that I carry some guilt for that. Don't cry any tears, but I think the Jewish people have definitely been able to benefit. Those of us who are white or white passing have definitely been able to benefit from that identity in a way that sometimes leaves behind our fellow people who are not able to access that privilege. So that's one piece. And I think I see a lot of promise in the coalition building that Jewish communities have done with people of color, people of other faiths. And I think we should be doing more. I think it's sometimes ignored in some Jewish communities. Another piece that I feel like I have to mention, even though I don't want to, is violence that happens in the Middle East by Jews, which is heartbreaking and deeply, I know everyone says deeply complicated, but it is, again, very, very hard to witness as someone who, again, roots myself in our history of emerging from violence and emerging from oppression. To see some people who share my identity turn around and do that to others it hurts. And I think the Jewish community is just really starting to have that conversation and grapple with it. And that's why I started with trauma as a fundamental piece of Jewish identity, because it really hinders a lot of our ability to have a lot of those conversations. What I try to do and how I think about this, very similar to what my friend said, is trying to show up as a representative in a positive way. Jews are 0.2% of the world population. I know we're called a major religion, but we are a teeny tiny people. So I try to show up as best as I can and try to build solidarity across dividing lines where I can, and try to be a good ambassador. So I love this question. I hate this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Thank you so much for digging deep and sharing your perspective. I was thinking violence begets violence, right? And not everyone in every group of people will be aware of that. Like, I'm doing this because it was done to me, or it's just my brain is wired that way. They are the other, right? They're trying to get rid of me again, so all of that, it's like, it's sad, and it's prevalent in a lot of places around the world where you can see the cycles of violence just going and not ending, right? But I like that you said that you see that a lot of Jewish coalitions are starting and helping, and holding hope is very important in this work that we do, right? Seeing like, okay, what's being done out there, like who's working towards this. I'm not alone in this. So do your research when something's like frustrating and you're like, nobody's doing anything about gun violence. Look at those who are actually doing the work. Donate, any other issues like, women's rights, abortion, whatever it is that you agree or disagree with. I feel like there's a lot that's being done. It's just not shared like on our main medias probably. So just dig and look at the other people that are doing the work, so you can also have that hope, and it will encourage you to keep showing up. And it's hard, and recognizing our privilege also, it's very important part of the work that we do. Thank you, Maxine. So because we want to honor your time, we're 1 minute over. This last question is for everyone, right? So take it home or answer it here, hang out with us. We usually stay a few minutes after the call. This last question is, how do you peace build across beliefs? So if any of the speakers want to speak to this, please let us know, share your wisdom. How do you peace build across beliefs? And then the chat box too. You guys can share it.
So real quick, Afnan, I think it's important for people to know how this even came about, right? So this workshop gathering event kind of sprung forth from a conversation that our team was having after a team call that we were on. We were just talking about ongoing events in the world, some things that we're experiencing in our personal lives, and then we started talking about faith. And because we are different practitioners of different faiths, and we worship differently, we started to find these threads in our conversation about how, albeit our paths are different, we do have a common goal in mind. And that if you listen closely across the spectrum of faith, no matter what you practice, you'll normally see that people are trending in the direction of unity, even if they're using different language. And so I just think that that's important for everyone to note. I think for me, and I'll make this really brief, I've learned that the more spiritually attuned you become to just different faith languages, the deeper a practitioner and appreciator of your own faith you become. And so for me, Maxine, you maybe like this. So I actually have a mezuzah on my door with the Kaddish inside that's been modified in a way, the language. And I observe Shabbat most Fridays too. So like, that's one of the things that I've picked up in, my, engaging across, borders, if you will, of faith. In some of my prayer life, I've picked up small things that I've learned from some of my Catholic brothers and sisters about like adoration and what it means to just like sit in silence and contemplate, before God in whatever way that you worship, and kind of identify and express things in the way that you see fit. It come down to things like verbiage, using words like shalom, using words like salam. So I think that there is so much to learn from other people who don't practice the same way that you do, that you can implement, and it almost makes you a safer space for people in your own faith. And it also makes them a safer space for you in their faith, when you know where they stand and they know where you stand, but you know that there is a unifying commonality between you all. And so I went a little longer than I wanted to, but yeah, there's some things to think about.
Thank you, Nigel. All right, so now I'm gonna give it to Faith to close us out and tell us what's next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and for engaging with us and having this conversation. We feel it is just so important for us to continue to connect and learn from each other. And that's what we seek to do here at the community team. We want to create spaces where we can have hard conversations and come together. So one thing we're going to do really quickly, and if you have to drop off, do not worry. We are going to send you the recording. So if you need to go ahead and leave, it's perfectly fine. But we are going to put a link in the chat, which is just a little survey. So you can just let us know what you learned. If you learned something, just help us out. All of your feedback just helps us to get better and to make sure that as we are learning and growing together, we provide a space that's really effective for you all. And it just helps us get better as a team. So if you have time, we would appreciate you filling it out. And those that do fill it out, you get something special from us. We do a little drawing, and we like to give some giveaways out. So when you fill it out, your name gets put in a little drawing, and you get mailed something from our Preemptive Love shop. So there is an incentive to do the survey. So we would really appreciate that. And one thing I want to encourage you all to do is join a gathering there is so much fun that can happen for you when you do join a gathering and you get connected with other people in your community and in your city. And I think that this is just something that you all should be a part of. We are going to show you a short video. Like I said, if you need to go, it's totally fine. But I do want to show you what gatherings are all about. I think it's important for you all to know so you can join and connect with Sadia because she will talk to you, every single one of you. So go ahead and play it, Sadia.
Hey, my name is Sadia Qureshi, and I'm a gatherings coordinator here at Preemptive Love. We haven't met for over 2 years because of COVID, and today we were able to have our first in-person gathering, and it's just so nice to be able to see people and actually have meaningful conversation face-to-face. And I feel so grateful to be doing this alongside so many amazing women who are ready to spread peace in our local neighborhood.
All right, that's just a little short video, just so you get a little feel for what gatherings are like. We have gatherings all around the US and globally. Sadia is the person you want to contact, and she's given you some information on how to reach her. You can follow us at Preemptive Love and then on social media at PLC Community, and we have a Facebook group as well. All of this information is going to get emailed to you, so no pressure. You don't have to write any of this down. But I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for joining, and I hope that you all have a great day. We are going to hang back for about 5 minutes or so in case somebody has questions, but otherwise, thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, friends. Thank you for joining us today. And please reach out if you have any questions.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just so you know, I think some of the questions on the survey didn't get edited between 2 different workshops.
Can you
Anyways,
try the newest link that I just sent?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for telling us, Riley.
Oh, no, it's not the right one. I'm sorry. We'll resend it.
We'll email it to you as well.
Yeah.
Right one.
Yeah, if you just email it out when you send out the recording, that might be the simplest way to do it. If y'all are okay waiting for the results.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Kathy, can you tell me again where you're calling from?
Oh, hi, everybody. Yeah, sorry I came late. I'm calling from Chicago. Chicago. Yeah. So I'm a frequent follower of all things Preemptive Love, Sadia and Afnan and everyone here. So